BJ Mafia, what's poppin'? So Jaguar fans, we are about 2 weeks away from the NFL draft. And while this offseason's been a little bit quieter for the Jaguars compared to last season, where we signed Doug Peterson, the Jaguars brought in the most free agents last season, and we spent the most money in an entire NFL free agency off period. This offseason, like I said, has been a little bit quieter, but we have some things to look forward to with the draft. There's a lot of positions that we could be filling up in this year's draft. When you talk about offensive line, you talk about the secondary, you look at edge rushers, there's a lot of ways that the Jaguars can go in this year's draft. But I'm going to be talking about specifically today cornerback from the University of Maryland, Deonte Banks. If you watched my top 5 prospects that the Jaguars should target in this year's draft, which I will link to that video up above for you guys to go and check out, Deonte Banks was my number 2 prospect, and he's the most realistic secondary player that I want desperately in this year's draft for the Jaguars to take in number 24. So we're going to talk in depth today about the Jaguars potentially taking Deonte Banks with the 24th overall pick. But before we actually get into today's video, man, a couple of things. First of all, shout out to the Men in Teal podcast. I'm always going to go out there and support my local Jaguar content creators. But secondly, if you guys could, before we get into today's video, drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. And if you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure that you guys go also follow me on my socials, especially on Twitter. I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below so that you guys can go and check that out. But let's actually talk about Deonte Banks in today's video. Now, Deonte Banks comes in out of the University of Maryland at 6 feet tall, 197 pounds. He ran a 4.35 at the combine, had a 42-inch vertical, and in 2022 he had an impressive campaign. In 12 games he had 35 tackles, 8 pass breakups, only had 1 interception, but a 71.4 QBR when targeted in coverage. Now, a couple of good things that I took away from Deonte Banks in his film going back over some of these games was I think that he's a phenomenal press man-to-man coverage type of cornerback. I think he's extremely aggressive at the line of scrimmage, sometimes a little bit too much, and he gets flagged for that. But overall, he does a great job making it difficult for the receiver to get his break off the line of scrimmage, and he does a great job staying stride for stride with a lot of wide receivers. He's got the speed. Obviously, that 4.35 speed is validated at the combine, and you clearly see it on the game tape. And then in zone coverage, I think he does a very good job staying poised and really reading the schemes and the crossing routes that come along his way. Sometimes in zone coverage, he gets a little bit antsy, he jumps the lane, and sometimes he tries too hard to make a play on the ball. And then a lot of times when the ball is in the air, I think he does a really good job high pointing the ball, turning his head back, making sure he can actually make a play on the ball instead of getting flagged for a holding call or a pass interference. And he does just a great job, like I said, staying stride for stride with the receivers. He's extremely athletic, extremely explosive, and I love what I see from him. There is some negatives that come along with his games, but overall, I think he's damn near a perfect prospect. He's easily the most realistic secondary player that I want in this year's draft for the Jaguars to take at 24. And then there were a few occasions, not a lot, but just a few occasions where I did see him look a little bit lackluster. If he was playing 5, 6, 7 yards off the line of scrimmage, off the receiver, and the ball really wasn't going his way, sometimes he looked very lackluster out there. Didn't really look like he was completely into the play, especially if the ball wasn't going his way. But that was very few and far in between. More often than not, I saw really great things to take away from Deonte Banks. Let's actually get into his film now. So now getting into the film with Deonte Banks, we're going to talk about 3 specific games that I took away from the 2022 season. Let's talk about this matchup versus the Michigan State Trojans. Now, this first play right here is great. You can see Deonte Banks lined up at the top of the screen. He does a great job on this go route, staying stride for stride with the receiver and making sure he actually turns his head, gets his head around, and doesn't cause a penalty, and he still continues to make a play on the ball. And what I love about this is he's showing off his athleticism, but he's also doing a great job high pointing the ball, staying stride for stride with the receiver, and also that is just textbook coverage, getting his head around and making a play on the ball. Now this next play versus the Michigan State, you can see him at the bottom of the screen, and the receiver takes a deep post route. But I just love this play from Deonte Banks because even though the ball is a little bit overthrown where the receiver or Deonte Banks can't make a play on the ball, I'm going to give Deonte Banks the benefit of the doubt and say that he stayed stride for stride with the receiver in coverage deep down the field, but also I believe he would have personally made a play on the ball had the ball actually been somewhat catchable. Now this next play versus Michigan State, you can see him at the bottom of the screen lined up, and this to me is a bad play. He's being overly aggressive, and I got to be able to point out the negatives when it comes to him too, because you do see him being physical at the line of scrimmage and you want to see that, but he kind of stands around looking around like, did I just cause that penalty, when clearly he's holding the receiver the entire time down the field. He's got to learn to get out of that break. Now this next play versus Michigan State, you see him at the bottom of the screen and the receiver takes him off of the slant route. And while I could be giving Deonte Banks the benefit of the doubt because this was a catchable ball by the wide receiver and it went through his hands, I'm going to give Deonte Banks the benefit of the doubt, saying that he made a great play and he disrupted the receiver from going ahead and making a clean catch on the ball. Maybe the receiver saw the safety coming down the middle and maybe he felt Deonte Banks' pressure behind him, but I'm going to give Deonte Banks the benefit of the doubt and say that his length and versatility disrupted that pass play, and that's why the receiver did not catch that ball. Now this last play versus Michigan State, Deonte Banks is lined up at the bottom of the screen, and this play is going absolutely nowhere near Deonte Banks. The quarterback does not even look in the direction of the receiver he's covering, but I absolutely love this play because Deonte Banks, you can see his IQ standing out right here in the scheme from which the Terrapins have put out. Deonte Banks reads the receiver, he slips the route, and to me, this is an interception all day, or he's making at least a play on the ball if the quarterback throws that ball before the quarterback eventually evades the pressure, rolls out right, and throws the ball out of bounds. I personally just think that this is just a great play by him. And Deonte Banks knows he has the safety help over the top, and Deonte Banks still finds a way to slip the route. And that's just great coverage overall. All right, I lied. I got one more play versus Michigan State because this was just a great game by him. You see Deonte Banks lined up at the top of the screen. The receiver's running the over route across the side of the field, and you see Deonte Banks just doing a great job passing along the receiver, doing a great job communicating, but he finds a way on the other crossing route to get back to his receiver because he knows the safety help is not going to be there. Great job by him. And honestly, I couldn't tell if this was zone or man coverage the way he passed along his receiver, but just a great job by him communicating with his teammates and still finding a way to get back into coverage. And this is one of my favorite plays that I evaluated from Deonte Banks. Does a great job staying poised, not getting out of his lanes, and keeping up stride for stride with the receiver, still finding a way to turn his head, keep up with the high point of the ball, and still go ahead and make a play on the ball because he could have easily gotten out of his lanes, but he still found a way to make a play on the ball. I love that. And then the next play versus Michigan, he's here at the top of the screen lined up on the receiver, and even though the ball does not really go his way, he does a great job keeping up stride for stride with the receiver, staying poised, staying in his lane, and keeping up to maintain with the receiver the entire time. The Michigan quarterback eventually gets out of the pocket to the right, but he does a great job overall. Also, I do want to apologize. Those first two plays I showed you with the go route and the deep post route, those were versus SMU, not MSU. That's my fault. But Jaguar fans, before I kind of wrap up this video talking about Deonte Banks, like I said, a guy who I am extremely high on. I have extremely high praise for him right here, right now, and I mean no troll by this. I truly believe Deonte Banks in the right scheme is not only going to dominate the NFL game, I truly believe he has the Champ Bailey ceiling and potential in him. He's got all-time great Pro Bowl cornerback written all over him. Look, I could be getting ahead of myself, but just from my personal evaluation of him, I think this guy's on an island of his own. This guy reminds me of Revis Island, Champ Bailey, some of the all-time great cornerbacks that I've watched in my lifetime. I truly believe Deonte Banks is that great of a cornerback. And look, only time's gonna tell, but that's just my personal evaluation and opinion of him. I think he's the real deal. I want him in Jacksonville desperately. But Jaguar fans, I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. What do you guys think about Deonte Banks potentially to Jacksonville? And also, I want you guys to give me some more draft prospects that you guys wanted me to talk about in the next video. Go and drop them in the comments down below. But Jaguar fans, if you guys enjoyed today's video, man, make sure that you guys go ahead and drop me a thumbs up. It takes 1 second and it helps me and the channel out tremendously. And if you guys are new here, consider hitting that subscribe bell to stay tuned for more Jaguars content that I do here on YouTube. And make sure that you guys go follow me on my socials. Like I said, on Twitter, I'm very active and I'm on there every single day. The link tree will be in the description down below. But thanks again for sticking around throughout the whole video. Brett James, aka BJ, I'm out, y'all. Go Jags, baby. Peace.